Let's spend some time together and I'll show you how to make my new plushie pattern, this super cute laying down fox. The PDF pattern comes with instructions to make a red fox, gray wolf, as well as an Arctic fox and a black wolf. I asked my Patreon members which one they wanted me to show in my YouTube video and they picked the red fox, so that's what we're gonna make today. Let's get right into it and pick out some yarn. I like to use Bernat blanket yarn. You can use anything that you'd like. Bernat blanket is kind of weird because they'll make 5 different shades of orange that all look basically the same but name them different things. So I'm going to use terracotta, but you could use like pumpkin spice or one of the other oranges. Another type of yarn I've been using is Premier Basics, and it's basically the same as Bernat blanket. It has the same texture and it's the same weight, so they're interchangeable. If you end up liking this tutorial and want to support me as an artist, you can always pick up a copy of the PDF pattern or even support me on Patreon. Alright, now that we got my self-promotion out of the way, here are some of the materials and tools I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using a 6.5mm crochet hook. I'm going to try this new one I got. It's kind of similar to the Susan Bates one that I usually use. They're both inline hooks. And then I'm going to use 18mm kawaii style eyes that I painted. I'm going to try to like make the plushie and see what I feel like goes with it. And with these eyes you need something to put the backs on, so keep that in mind. I'm also going to be using cotton worsted weight yarn to add the nose, and of course the yarn and the stuffing to make the plushie. If you have a copy of the pattern, you can follow along, but you don't need to. I'll show you everything you need to make a plushie in the video. So for the new year, I did want to challenge myself with making different, more complex shapes with my plushies. So I want to do a quick overview of how we're going to construct this plushie before we even start, so there's no surprises along the way. We're going to make the head first, and just be warned, there are a lot of color changes, but it looks cute. And then we're going to make the ears, but we're going to crochet along the top of them first before, if you're familiar with my cat pattern or some of my other patterns, we crochet behind the ears and then continue on. And then to make the body, we're going to make 2 feet, connect them, and then crochet down, and then make one of the feet, and then stop, fasten off, and make the other foot, and then the tail, and sew the head and the tail on together. And something to be aware of with this plushie is how you stuff it really affects the way it looks. So we're kind of going to stuff the front of the plushie lightly. One of the ways I think about it that makes it less confusing is it's basically like a standing up plushie, like one of my cows, just flat. Okay, so go gather all your materials and we'll get started by making the fox head. I actually found a little bit of Bernat blanket vintage white, so that's what I'm going to use, just so it's all the same. So make a magic circle, and to do that you just wrap it around your finger and then chain 1, and we never count that chain 1, you just pretend it doesn't exist, and then place 8 single crochets into the magic circle. I quickly realized that maybe a black hook was not a good idea for the video, so I switched to my old one. Hopefully you can see it better. And forgive me in advance, but I am gonna have to use black yarn for the feet, but we'll get through it together. Once you have your 8 single crochets in the magic circle, you can pull it tight, and then skipping that chain 1 and working into the top of the first reel single crochet, we're gonna make 1 single crochet and then an increase, which is just 2 single crochets together in the same stitch. And we're going to repeat that twice and then make 1 single crochet. But we're not going to finish because we're going to switch over to our light orange color. And this is how I like to change colors, but everyone's different. So I wanted to show an alternative method where you do finish the last stitch and then kind of like pull through with a chain 1 with the new color. You should change colors whichever way that you like. There's probably hundreds of different ways online. Just do whatever feels most comfortable to you. Alright, so continuing with the light orange, we're going to do an increase, 1 single crochet, and then another increase to finish the row. But don't finish the last stitch again because we're going to switch back to white. And I always like to use my stitch marker to mark the last stitch of each row, but you kind of should decide if you're going to be marking the last stitch of each row or the first one, and be consistent with it because you don't want to be switching that around halfway through. Continuing on with row 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase, repeated twice, and 1 single crochet. The white part will basically be the bottom of the fox's like little nose and snout area, and the orange part is going to be the top. Don't finish the last stitch because we're going to switch over to the dark orange color, which will be the main color for the body. Then make 1 single crochet, an increase, 2 single crochets, and then an increase to end the row. I'm kind of trying to go slow towards the beginning of the video just so you become familiar with what I'm doing, but towards the end I am going to speed up because it ended up being a really long video. Removing your stitch marker at the end of each row so you don't lose track of anything. And we'll switch back to white and then do 3 single crochets and an increase, repeated twice, and 1 single crochet. We're basically just doing like a normal set of increase rows, but the only thing is we skipped that initial like increase row we usually do, and that'll make the shape more pointed like a nose instead of a flat circle. So switch over to dark orange and do 1 single crochet, and then this part is a little weird but it'll make sense. We're gonna make 6 increases because we want the top of the fox's head to kind of like curve up to make his forehead, and we want it to look different from the bottom of his head just so his face doesn't look like a cone and he looks super cute. It is gonna mess with our numbers like a little bit for the next row, but it's no big deal. Like, I found an easy way to get it back on track. So yeah. And this is what I meant about like challenging myself to make different shapes that aren't just like the standard increases and stuff like that. I made a bunch of really ugly ones before I made the final cute version. And there we go. It kind of like curves up and it gives him a really cute nose. Alright, so let's continue on. We're going to use light orange and we're going to do 4 single crochets and then an increase, repeat it twice, and then 1 single crochet. But don't finish that last stitch because yeah, we're going to switch back over to dark orange. And you might be getting annoyed with like having a bunch of different colors right now, but we're almost done, I promise. With having 3 colors at least. So switch over to orange and then do 4 single crochets. I spoke too soon, I forgot about the eyebrows. We're gonna do 4 single crochets, but don't finish the last one because we're gonna crochet on his eyebrows. And I like to crochet them on and then I like to sew on another color on top because I like having 3 different colors. It adds a cute little detail to the plushie. So make an increase with light orange, don't finish the last stitch, go back to dark orange and single crochet 3 between the eyebrows. If you're having an issue where your tension is way different than mine, you don't have to crochet on the eyebrows. You could always just continue with the main body color and sew them on later. Don't finish the last stitch because we're going to change over to light orange to make the other eyebrow, which is an increase. Don't finish the last stitch because we're going to switch over to dark orange and then finish the row with 4 single crochets. I promise it's like most of the color changes, okay? And there we go, his face is really starting to come together. Let's continue on with row 6. We're going to start with dark orange and we're going to do 5 single crochets and then an increase and repeat that 4 times. And then this is the row that's like a little funny because of we grouped all our increases before, but we're gonna end with just 4 single crochets, just so our numbers are right as we go forward. Moving on to the row where we're gonna start the ears, we're gonna single crochet 19. That should bring you around to the top of the plushie where the ears should kind of line up with the eyebrows. And if you are having an issue with them lining up, you can just like move it over 1 stitch or 2. So we're going to be making the light orange inner part of the ear right now. And to help you out, you can mark 3 back loops of the next stitches. We're going to be working in the front loop only to make this part of the ear. So with the 19th stitch, we're going to switch over to light orange. In the next stitch, we're going to make 2 double crochets in the same stitch. In the next front loop only stitch, we're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, and then a double crochet all made together in that same front loop stitch. And then to finish it off, we're going to make a half double crochet in the front loop only, but don't finish it. Just pull it up and then finish it off with your dark orange color. And the inner part of the ear should line up with the eyebrows. Now we're gonna single crochet 4 between the ears, and then we're basically gonna do the same exact thing, only mirrored to make the other ear. Don't finish the last stitch and switch over to light orange. You can mark the back loops of the next 3 stitches, and then working in the front loop only, we're gonna make a half double crochet. In the next front loop only stitch, we're gonna make a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet, all in the same front loop only stitch. And then in the last front loop only stitch, we're going to make 2 double crochets in the same stitch. But don't finish the last double crochet because we'll switch back over to dark orange. We can finish the row off with 3 single crochets, and then I feel like we have most of the hard parts out of the way. And from here on out, it won't be that bad until we get to like the back feet. Okay. So normally, like with my cat pattern and some of my dog patterns, in this row we would work in those marked back loop only stitches, but for this we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to crochet around the tops of the ears for 1 row before we even mess with those marked stitches. So with dark orange, do 19 single crochets, and that should bring you right to the first ear. Don't finish the last stitch and switch over to black. And then we're going to crochet along the top. So first we're going to do 3 single crochets. And then in that chain 1 space that's right at the peak of the ear, we're going to make an increase, which is just 2 single crochets in the same chain 1 space. And then kind of be careful because you don't want to miss this stitch. We want to work 1 single crochet into the top of that double crochet, and it can be like a little easy to miss. So do 2 more single crochets in black, but don't finish because we'll switch back over to dark orange, and do 4 single crochets between the ear before we do the same thing on the other one. Switch over to black. Do a single crochet in the top of the half double crochet, a single crochet in top of the double crochet, and then in that chain 1 space, do an increase, 2 single crochets together in the same chain 1 space. And then there's that tricky little spot again where you might miss that one. We're going to do 3 more single crochets with black. Don't finish the last stitch because we're switching back over to orange. And now I can confidently say that I promise this is it for the color changes for the head. The rest of it will just be orange, so don't hate me. Okay, and now we're going to go around in this row and just single crochet around and place 1 single crochet in each of those marked back loops. They're a little hard to see, but that's why we put those stitch markers there, so as soon as you take them out, you can make your single crochet in there and you won't miss anything. 19 single crochets to make it to the first ear. Take out those stitch markers, and you kind of have to tuck your color changes behind if you aren't like cutting and tying everything as you go. Place 1 single crochet in each of the marked stitches. 4 single crochets between the ear. And then do the same thing. You can take out the stitch markers and place 1 single crochet in each of the back loops that we skipped. Then we just have to do 3 more single crochets to finish the row. And it is helpful to like kind of pull your stitches tight when you're working around the ear so you don't have any spaces. I think it looks really good. Now is a great time to stop and cut and tie all of your color change ends. I try and get all of the like really long ones that are awkward so that when you're stuffing your plushie it doesn't like pull from the inside and make it misshapen. And I just tie them all 3 times, alternating the side that I'm tying with. I've never had an issue with them coming undone. And then we can take a second to sew on the nose. So I'm using black cotton worsted weight yarn. I was going to use brown, but I thought black kind of accented the ears. And I just loop around row 1 with 4 stitches on the top and 4 stitches on the bottom, so it's kind of in the middle. And the whole time I'm just aware I'm pulling it evenly and I'm not like threading through the cotton thread so it gets messed up. I'm just trying to make it look neat and tidy. I would say I usually go around like maybe 6 times, but you can do anything that you like. I even saw some of my pattern testers for this pattern used like plastic safety noses. I thought it looked so cute. I actually want to try to use them now. I really liked it. I would just sew on noses and stuff. I've never tried the plastic safety noses. And then when I go to finish it, I always go down to the middle and the bottom and up 1 time. And I'm going up through like the center of the magic circle. And there we go, cute little nose. I just do the same thing, I tie it 3 times on the inside. And now we can add our eyes. I'm using 18mm kawaii style eyes that I painted. Sorry if I sounded really tired in the last segment, it's because I was. It's currently the next day and I slept and I feel a lot better. Anyway, so we're going to add the eyes between rows 4 and 5. Slightly above the center, I try and aim for like 1 single crochet kind of under the eyebrows. And I noticed after I made this one, I made the eyes a little higher than the first one I made, and it gives it a different look, but I like both ways. For the first one I made in the background, you can see I kind of line the eyes up with the color changes of the snout. And then the one I'm making now, I accidentally put like maybe 1 stitch higher. But I like the different look. I think it makes each one really unique and gives them like a different personality. So you should really experiment and make them however you like, and each one will be different. Now I'm going to take this chance to sew on a little bit of white over the eyebrows. And you don't have to do this. I just like to add the extra detail. It only takes a second. I just thread through the back and go around 1 stitch, and then I'm going to go right back down into where I started and make a little V. And then I just repeat the process on the other side. And I always like to sew on details like this, like I'm making strawberries right now, and this is how I sew on the seeds because I think it looks like little hearts. Those are all the face details that I'm going to add, but you could also sew on blush, or I even saw some of my pattern testers added whiskers and it looked so cute. And now we're in the home stretch for making the head. We're just going to single crochet around for 3 rows and then kind of start our decrease. We're going to do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease, which is pulling up the front loop only for the next 2 stitches and then single crocheting normally, and we're going to repeat that 8 times total. You could take this chance to stuff the plushie and just be mindful that you get stuffing all the way into his snout, so like it's not an empty space towards the front of the plushie. And now going around for row 14, we're gonna do 1 single crochet and then an invisible decrease and repeat that for a total of 8 times. And the last row, just invisible decrease all the way around. And each time I make one of the stitches, I kind of try to pull it tight just so you don't get too many holes towards the back, and you can keep stuffing the plushie after each row. And I fasten off and leave a long tail, and then to sew my plushies closed, I go around with a yarn needle and thread through the front loop only. And then once I go around everything, I can just pull it tight and it'll close the hole really nicely. And you can always go back with the thread that you have and like close any other holes that you see. I tie a knot 3 times. Then I thread it through 1 more time to hide the knot inside of the plushie and just snip the extra yarn. And then we're done. And yeah, you'll probably have to like lint roll it and squish him around so he doesn't look funny. I think he looks awesome. Go take a break and like make some tea or take a walk, and we'll make the body together next. So quick overview, we're going to make 2 feet basically the same way, and then we're going to connect them by just single crocheting around both of them basically, and then we're going to go up the body. So please forgive me, I realize at this point I'm going to be using black yarn in a crochet tutorial. Hopefully the crochet police don't come and get me. But just make a magic circle and put 7 single crochets into the magic circle. Now we're just going to increase around, which is 2 single crochets in each stitch. And this is basically the part of the plushie that is the same as like my cows or my bears if you made them before. Only this is like laying down horizontally where those are standing up like vertically. But it's the same concept of making 2 feet basically in the same way and then connecting them. So with your black, single crochet around for 2 rows. Don't finish the last stitch and then single crochet around for 1 row with light orange. Again, don't finish the last stitch and switch to the body color and single crochet around for 2 rows. I'm tired of saying it, so I know you guys are definitely tired of hearing it, so I'll try not to say it anymore. Don't hold me to it though. So right now we're making foot 1, and for foot 1 we're not going to finish the last stitch just like if we were going to make a color change or something. Just take it completely off your hook and then we'll make foot 2 and worry about it later. Moving on to foot 2, we're going to make it in exactly the same way, so I'm just gonna kind of breeze through it. We're gonna start with the black, make a magic circle, 7 single crochets in the magic circle, increase around, single crochet around for 2 rows, switch to light orange, single crochet around, switch to the body color, which is dark orange, and single crochet around for 2 rows. And instead of not finishing the last stitch like foot 1, we are gonna finish the last stitch. You can carefully remove your hook from foot 2, and then place the last unfinished stitch from foot 1 onto your hook. Then place the loop of the last stitch of foot 2 onto your hook, and then pull through with that loop to finish off that stitch that we left unfinished. And there we go, our feet are joined. It's not hard, it's just like a little weird to read sometimes, but then you see it one time and it makes sense and it's super easy. And then the rest of the body will kind of be a breeze until we get to the back feet. And even that part isn't necessarily hard. It's just like how we join the front feet. It's funny to see on paper, but then you see it done and you totally get it and it's not hard. But you do have to be careful at this point and at the back feet. Just take a second and count your stitches to make sure everything is okay. We want 14 single crochets around each foot. And it is a little easy to like add a random one or something because the middle is a little funny. So just take a second to count and make sure you have 28 stitches. The rest of the body is fairly simple. We're going to be doing rows of increases, then a bunch of single crochets, and then some decreases and so on. So first we're going to do a row of 6 single crochets and then an increase, and repeat that 4 times. And this will just kind of give the legs some shape and kind of make an elbow for the fox. You'll want to pause it for the next section because I'm going to single crochet around for 4 rows. And I don't think you really need to see that. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up right here and move your stitch marker so we stay on track. And now before we cut in to make the fox's little waist, we want to take a second to stuff the front of the plushie mindfully. And by that I mean very lightly, because when I first started making these I stuffed them evenly and pretty firmly like I normally do, and it just doesn't look great to be super round. So we're gonna try and stuff the feet like flatly and lightly, and then we're gonna try to stuff the elbow but leave that middle section right where the head is gonna sit kind of empty and very light. But right now we don't have to worry about it too much. Just stuff the front of the feet flatly, just so he doesn't like weeble wobble and roll around. Moving on to row 14, we're gonna keep it simple and just do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease, and repeat that 8 times around. and this will just bring in his waist a little bit before we single crochet around for 2 more rows. Move our stitch marker, and now this row is a little funny, but you'll get why in a second. I'll show you. So we kind of want to make his bottom round while keeping the bottom of the plushie flat. And something I ran into while designing this, remember I said I made a bunch of ugly weird ones, is because I was distributing the increases evenly and it just doesn't work like if you want to keep the bottom flat. So we're going to group them all together on the top, and that'll be like the curve of his waist. So start off by doing 5 increases. And then we'll go around the bottom and make it to the other side with 16 single crochets. And then we're going to finish off the row with 3 increases. And that'll give us a curve up, just like on the face, how we kind of grouped the increases above his nose. The same way. Now you can kind of tune out and not pay attention for a little while and just single crochet around for 6 rows. Sorry, it's gonna be boring. And I realized I haven't had a sponsor for one of my videos in a long time, and I didn't even want one until I got a surprise yarn inspection. I'm starting to believe that Miko is an agent for the crochet police I mentioned earlier, because he only ever seems interested in my desk when I'm making tutorials. Anyway, I apologize, I couldn't help myself. So now we're basically gonna do what I described earlier. We're gonna stuff the plushie mindfully. We're gonna try and stuff the elbows, but keep that section where the head is gonna sit very lightly stuffed and like empty. And you can even move the stuffing away from that area and like leave a little kind of donut shape for the head to sit in. And we are gonna stuff the back of the plushie firmer so his like little butt sticks up a little. But you don't have to worry about that right now until we start to do a lot of decreases. And now for row 24, we're basically going to do the opposite of what we did earlier. We're going to do 6 single crochets and then an invisible decrease and repeat that 4 times. Before, again, super boring, we're going to single crochet for 3 rows around. And this will just give us enough room to like slope down from his bottom. And you can take this chance after we do those 3 rows of single crochets to stuff his butt like firmer. I would say between the feet and the head, so like a normal amount of stuffing. But be careful to keep the bottom as flat as you can so he doesn't like bow up on either side, you know? And now we're gonna set up a row. This is the row I've been warning you about that is a little weird. We're gonna set up both of the feet and we're gonna use stitch markers and I'll make it easier. So make 5 single crochets and then place a stitch marker in stitch number 4 and stitch number 5, and that'll be marker 1 and marker 2. And then we're going to do 14 single crochets and then place a stitch marker in stitch number 13, which will be marker 3, and stitch number 14, which will be marker 4. I promise this will make sense in a second. And then 9 single crochets to finish the row. So basically what we just mapped out is each foot. And you might have to adjust this. If your tension is different than mine, if you're using like a different hook or a different type of yarn, you might have to move it over one way or the other. Just try and like pinch it and make it so there's 14 stitches on one side and 14 stitches on the other side, because those are going to be the 2 back feet. And you see the stitch markers are going to help us see which is the first stitch, and then go over to the back and then around to make it even on both sides. So even if you have to adjust it, you totally can. Just make sure it's 14 stitches around each foot, just like the front feet, so they match. So I just did 4 single crochets to make to marker 1 before I go across the plushie to get to marker number 4, and then single crochet back around to where we started, and there we go. We have our first foot mapped out, and we're going to concentrate on foot number 1 and finish that up, and then we'll go back and make the second foot. And the first foot is a little weird because we don't want the color changes to sit right on top because you'll be able to see them. So we're just going to single crochet 4 to kind of get to the middle of the legs where you won't really see the color changes that much. And you can change over to light orange and then finish up the row with that. And as you can see, I was just trying to get that middle stitch, which is like a little tricky because it's kind of pulled tight. But you just be careful and kind of count as you go along. There should be 14 stitches each row we go along. And now I almost said it again, but let's just change over to black during the last stitch and we'll go around. And you can stuff your foot now and again make it kind of flat like the front ones so it matches. And you should not follow my example and pay attention because I wasn't paying attention. I was kind of tired when I was doing this and I forgot a row. So ignore what I'm doing right now and hurry up and do a row of single crochet around in black. There should be like 2 before we start the invisible decreases, which I'm doing now and I completely forgot about on this foot. Don't tell anyone. But if you do something like that, it's seriously not a big deal. Back when I first started crocheting, I would like rip out 4 rows to go fix a mistake. And now I seriously like just roll with it. No one's really gonna notice. Only you know where the mistake is. You can usually fix it and just make the back feet a little smaller. No one will know. So now we can fasten off, weave through the front loop only to close the hole and tie a knot and hide it in the plushie. And now we're gonna do the second foot, which honestly is easier than the first because you already know what's going on. We're just gonna slip stitch onto that first marker and then we're gonna make a single crochet in the same stitch and we're gonna ignore that slip stitch we made, pretend it doesn't exist. And then we're gonna make 13 more single crochets to go all the way around to the last marker remaining. Before we join the 2 sides, change over to light orange, and I'm just showing you to skip that slip stitch and join the 2 sides. And don't freak out about the hole. We can fix it later. That's why that's like the main reason I sew on the tail instead of crocheting it on. So single crochet around with light orange, and then switch over to black, single crochet around for 2 rows. I honestly can't remember if I made this foot right. Yeah, I think I did, and just he has 1 little foot. It's okay, we still love him. Now invisible decrease around, and you can like stuff a little bit at a time after each row just to try and keep it even. Fasten off, close the hole, tie a knot, hide the knot in the plushie, and now we're basically done the body. Yay! You can flatten it out and kind of move the stuffing around, make sure it looks great. One last push, one last thing we gotta make. This is like my longest tutorial ever. So we're gonna make the tail. So start off with white, make a magic circle, and 6 single crochets. I'll try and go through this fast because I know everyone's probably tired of listening to me. 1 single crochet increase, repeat that 3 times. Sorry about the noises. I try, but I have a toddler, so something is probably being destroyed downstairs right now. She's not by herself, my husband is watching her, but yeah. Then 2 single crochet increase, repeated 3 times. Tail's pretty simple, nothing really fancy about it. 1 more row of white with 3 single crochets and then an increase, repeated 3 times. Switch over to black. Do 4 single crochets, increase, repeated 3 times. And this is kind of like the nose. We skipped that initial increase row and that'll make it more pointed and kind of get more of a unique shape instead of just being like a flat circle. Then light orange, go around single crochet, switch to the body color, single crochet for 2 rows around. We're basically going to be doing like alternating rows of single crochets with decreases from here on out. 4 single crochets, invisible decrease, repeated 4 times. For row 10, we're just gonna single crochet around before row 11, doing 3 single crochets and then an invisible decrease, repeated 3 times. Then we're gonna single crochet around for 2 rows, and I bet you can guess what's coming next. 2 single crochets, invisible decrease, repeated 3 times. And then single crocheting around for row 15. Finally, the finishing row will be row 16 with just 1 single crochet, invisible decrease 3 times. Yay, we did it! All of our pieces are done, and we're ready to sew the head and the tail on. And I know it can be like a little annoying, but at least we don't have to sew the feet or the ears or like anything else. So to do that, I just go around. I kind of try to sew the tail on round rather than like flat, just because I like the look of it better. And then I take that time to help him out and fix him up a little. And then squish that area where we're going to put his head. And you can put it on like facing the front, facing the side, any way that you like. I like the way it looks facing the front, and I'm actually working on turning this into like a red panda, and I thought it would be really cute to do the red panda facing forward. So I just do a version of the mattress stitch and go around. I usually go around twice just to make sure it's fully on and everything's okay. And then I end where I started, tie the knot 3 times, and then hide the knot inside the plushie. And there we go, we did it together. My most complex, I'm pretty sure, probably, plushie. And I think my cutest so far. I know like some of my other ones are popular, but I'm really proud of myself for this one. Thanks for watching, and I really hope you made a plushie that you love. Or maybe you could give it to someone that you love as a gift to make their day brighter and just spread the happiness of crochet. And I want to take this second to thank all of my Patreon members, because without you guys, like, none of this would be possible. I appreciate the members of the Crafty Cat Collective so much, and we're like a big fun crochet community of friends, so we all support each other. I'm currently in the process of packing up everything I own, including my entire studio, so this might be the last video you see that yarn wall, and moving 500 miles away to middle of nowhere frigid Maine. But I was thinking, when I reopen my shop and kind of get back to normal life on March 1st, I wanted to extend like the tiers of Patreon. And I wasn't sure what else to offer, because like everything's already included in the Crafty Cat Collective, but I really want to do like a snail mail one, where each month, if you're a member of like the snail mail section of the Crafty Cat Collective, I can mail you like 5 sets of eyes, or you can use them for your own projects. But yeah, that's just like an idea I'm working on. I'll have to actually figure out how to do that. We should start a pen pal movement. Oh my god, that'd be so much fun. I'm hoping to do one more tutorial before everything is packed and in total chaos of my new Valentine's Day pattern, which is like a cute big strawberry. I might do the chocolate covered one. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll try to get that out next week before I leave. Thanks for watching, and I hope everyone has a really great day. Bye.